Healing is not a trend. What TikTok therapists get wrong. Welcome to episode 12. Healing is not a hashtag, it's not a filter, and it's not a lifestyle brand. This episode is for everyone who's tired of chasing aesthetics and wants to come home to something real. We're talking about social media, spiritual bypassing, and how brain spotting takes us beneath the surface. This is not your average therapy talk. This is Beyond the Spot. Beyond the Spot, Decolonizing Healing One Brain at a Time, is a podcast that weaves, my first love, of course, brain spotting, and somatic informed modalities with embodied healing, cultural consciousness, and real talk about trauma, resilience, and recovery. Hosted by Tracy Monroy, a licensed professional counselor, spiritual healer, and the first Black female brain spotting trainer in the world. Each episode dares to dismantle mental health myths, uplift lived experiences, and restore collective wisdom. One conversation at a time. Beyond the Spot podcast is for educational purposes and is not therapy. Please reach out to licensed medical and mental health professionals. Thank you. Welcome to Beyond the Spot, Decolonizing Healing One Brain at a Time. I am your host, Tracy Monroy, licensed professional counselor, spiritual healer, and the first Black female brain spotting trainer in the world. Today, we're talking about something that needs to be said out loud. Healing is not a trend. It's not a mood board. It's not a 3-step affirmation reel. It's not a lifestyle aesthetic curated for likes. We are in an era of reels, TikToks, hashtags, and self-help influencers. You can scroll through 30-second videos that promise to fix your trauma with a tip, a sound, or a script. And while some of it can be validating, a lot of it is performative, misinformed, and flat out harmful. And when we try to force it into those boxes, we lose the soul of it. We lose the body. We lose the community, and we absolutely lose the humanity. So today, we're going to talk about what gets lost in the noise and what it means to reclaim healing that is slow, sacred, and rooted in lineage. This whole thing about the performance of healing and the rise of insta healing is dangerous. Let's start with social media. TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube have become healing spaces. And on one hand, I love that. That is so needed. This is the most widespread and mainstream. The idea of mental health, psychotherapy, support has been in the history of the world. People are finally taking trauma seriously and talking about it. They're talking about trauma. They're talking about therapy. They're talking about attachment and the nervous system. It's out in the open. But there's a shadow side. Healing has become performative, not embodied, not relational, not rooted. We've got therapists lip syncing over sound bites, coaches giving advice in 15-second clips. Go figure that. And people selling healing kits without any lived experience or clinical training. And suddenly, healing is something to consume, not something to practice. I find that problematic. Social media has become one of the most popular sources of mental health education, especially for Gen Zs and millennial folks who don't trust traditional systems. And I get it. I understand. We've been burned by gatekeeping therapists and validating doctors, medical apartheid, and whitewashed wellness. I'm on the team. I understand. But when algorithms reward virality over depth, something shifts. Healing becomes a brand. Trauma becomes a punchline. And therapists, some of us become content creators more than containers. We start saying things like, you attract what you are. If they wanted to, they would. Narcissists are everywhere. How about cut them off? No contact, period. Yeah, right. Quick, catchy, clean. But healing? I don't think so. Healing is messy, complex, rooted in the nervous system, safety, and community, not sound bites. Healing is not, nor will it ever be, a hashtag. Healing is a body process. Let's bring it back to the body. Healing isn't just what you know, it's what your nervous system can hold. You can recite all the trauma buzzwords. I don't give a flip if you talking about boundaries, triggers, attachment styles, but still find your body bracing when someone hugs you. Notice that. Still find yourself dissociating when things get quiet. Still shutting down when you're overwhelmed. That's not a failure of knowledge, you all. That's a call for deeper care. This is where brain spotting offers something profoundly different. And need I say, not just brain spotting, but this is where competently trained, informed, processed, experienced psychotherapists and helping professionals can offer something profoundly different. It's not a script. It never has been. It's not a trend. It can't be because it's not out there. It's inside. It's in here. It's not simply about naming your trauma. It's about processing it at the level your body remembers and processing it at the level that your internal resiliency, consistency can hold. And that doesn't fit into a 60-second video. We have truly moved into a time period of manifestation on steroids. This is when spiritual bypass becomes branding. And as someone who is known to be clinically and spiritually attuned at the same time, it's almost like having a skill, knowing how to use a particular tool, and watching many negligently misuse the tool. I don't even think it's with malice. I just think that we can't know what we don't know, but understand clinicians go through didactic learning, we go through residencies, internships, practicums. We have to learn the theory and the application while under supervision for many years. This is not something where you can just pick up a workbook or a handbook or find something catchy and think you can mimic it. Embodiment cannot be mimicked. And let's be clear, you can only heal someone or support their healing journey as far as you have healed. Just putting it out there. So when I notice and consider this idea of all this manifestation, it's dangerous. And especially when spiritual bypass becomes branding. Let's talk about the latest trend, manifestation on steroids. I'm going to keep saying it. Now, listen, manifestation in and of itself is true, and in the spiritual form is powerful. It's ancestral, it's sacred. It's about aligning with purpose, calling in support, moving with intention. But what we're seeing online isn't that. We're seeing, quote unquote, healing influencers preach that you can manifest your way out of generational trauma, systemic oppression, or mental health diagnoses. That's a lie. It doesn't work that way. As someone who is trained and skilled in generational trauma healing, systemic oppression, trauma healing, mental health diagnoses, trauma healing. Yeah, we're hearing things like, if you're still struggling, you're just not aligned. Really? How about your reality is a reflection of your vibration? Get the hell out of here. How about just think positive? Don't claim that trauma. Are you for real? Who can even minimize any human being's experience to that degree? Beloved, that's not healing. That's spiritual bypass with a ring light. Telling someone who's living with complex post traumatic stress disorder that they're stuck because they're low vibe, that's not empowerment. That's emotional gaslighting that is absolutely harmful. You cannot manifest your way out of a nervous system that has been shaped by violence, racism, neglect, and chronic survival. You cannot affirm your way into regulation if your body has never felt safe. And if you were taught to survive by shutting down, masking, or dissociating, your healing won't look like morning routines and gratitude journals. It'll look like trembling, reclaiming, rest, grief, resonance. There is such a huge risk, beloved, of misinformation. When influence becomes harm, is what we're facing. Here's the truth. When therapists chase likes instead of liberation, we risk becoming part of the harm. We start over pathologizing people online. We talk in absolutes. We present healing as linear, individual, and fast. And none of those descriptives are accurate. There ain't nothing linear about healing, just like there ain't nothing linear about the stages of grief. But most of the people I sit with, they aren't asking how to go viral. They're asking, how do I feel or why do I feel? so alone. They want to know, how can I heal? Why can't I rest? Why does my body still respond like I'm in danger? That violation happened years ago. Healing is not a lifestyle aesthetic. It's not a trend cycle. And it's definitely not a competition. Let me say that again. Healing is not a competition, folks. Healing for real doesn't go viral, but it transforms. Here's the deal. Healing doesn't trend because healing doesn't perform. It's not cute. It's not linear. It doesn't look good in your camera roll. Healing means crying in your car, saying no for the first time and shaking afterwards, letting yourself rage without explaining it. See, that won't go viral, but it will change your life. We have got to return to a place of lineage over lifestyle, because in our lineages, healing was never commodified. It was passed down, it was practiced, it was witnessed in circle, not performed for followers. Our ancestors didn't heal for visibility, they healed for survival. They healed through drumming, ritual, fasting, dancing, naming, silence. No filters, no marketing funnels, just nervous system repair in community. We are not here to replicate the systems of capitalism inside our healing. We are here to disrupt them. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. We have got to return to the place of lineage over likes, reclaiming healing as sacred because it is. In many cultures, healing isn't something you consume, it's something you inherit, something you practice, something you remember. Our ancestors healed through ritual, ceremony, through breath, through movement, through song and story, and even stillness. They didn't call it self regulation, though. They just knew how to hold grief around the fire. They knew how to wail, how to rest, and how to wait. This is what I mean when I say healing is not a trend, it's a return. I want to talk a little bit because, I am one of those people that find it necessary that if we're going to talk about what something is, I always want to give some purview, insight as to what is the healthier thing to do, or how can we approach what that looks like. I find that I have a responsibility for that as well, and I'm totally okay with that, and I'm open to that, if that's okay. It's always okay. So, I'm grateful for brain spotting. You already know how that goes. You already know that's my jam. I'm unapologetic about it, and I'm grateful to have that opportunity, right? So, brain spotting has taught me so much about, how can I say, not necessarily organizing my skill, but what brain spotting has done it is that it has given me an amazing way and an amazing orientation around my role as a psychotherapist, as a healer. So, what brain spotting teaches us is simply this when it comes to healing. Brain spotting taught me, in particular, that healing happens beneath the surface. I always knew that from a spiritual perspective because, for those of you who know, I find it important as a clinician, as a human being, as a person, as a healer, and all the things to know your source. I'm clear about my source. My source is God, Jesus, and the Holy Spirit. And I'm very clear about to whom my gift come from. Okay. I didn't give myself a gift. Doesn't belong to me. I'm humbled to have access and to be present with the gift that I know is beyond me. You won't ever hear me own it because it's not mine. I can't. With that being said, um, it's important even when I talk about this idea of brain spotting and what makes me a brain spotting girl at the root. It's as simple as brain spotting teaches us that healing happens beneath the surface. Healing, it's not intellectual. It's actually physiological and spiritual. It doesn't demand you to explain your trauma. One of my favorite things about brain spotting. It asks you to stay present with what your body is already holding. Brain spotting there's no performance. There's no productivity. It's just attuned space, stillness, and courage to feel. Brain spotting invites the body to release what the brain couldn't language. It makes space for what's real, not what's trending. And even being a brain spotting trainer or brain spotting practitioner in a clickbait world. So, where does brain spotting fit into this? Because it's not flashy, it's not for performance, and it won't give you a script to repeat in the mirror. And I do my best to explain this to attendees at trainings because we've been inundated and taught a particular way as mental health clinicians. And there are so many modalities and styles and ways of addressing trauma and maladaptive behaviors. That's like one, two, three. Brain spotting changes the game because brain spotting is hinged on the dual attunement frame, which is relational attunement and neurobiological attunement, transported by the uncertainty principle. So, oftentimes, when people come into brain spotting trainings for the first time, they go through this experience of deprogramming. Yes, we've all been programmed. Call it what you like. I'm just saying what it is. But what brain spotting does do is that it will give your nervous system a moment of true presence. It will invite your body to process what words couldn't say. It will help you meet your inner child, your protector parts, your stuck places with compassion and safety. Let me say this because there's a whole bunch out there about this inner child stuff. Be careful. Here's what I know. For anyone who start messing around with parts and ego states and all the things, if you don't know what you're doing, if you don't have the training, if you don't have the expertise, you can run into trouble. Okay? If anybody ever tells you you need to get rid of your parts, I need you to run. Because the idea is not ever to get rid of the parts, but rather to reassign the part to something they would rather and desire be doing. Because understand, we are born with parts, and oftentimes parts are formed as a result of what happened to us or what didn't happen for us, coming from a neglect perspective. But there is an organized, proven way of how to address and work with what we call parts. You know, get off of them 15 and 20-minute second slides on these video clips. And I'm going to tell you something else. Yeah, always be motivated to help yourself, but I'm going to tell you something. Some of these workbooks out here that's telling you how to. Don't mess around and get stuck out there. You got to understand the idea of sensory gating. When you start engaging with those parts, you got to understand how to funnel and how to align and how to make an ally out of these parts in order to work them, move them, transform them. Because if you don't, somebody's going to be in trouble. And I'm talking big trouble because you don't want to be one of these people with dissociative and convergence, and you got 1,000 parts and they're all trying to come out at one time, that is going to shut down your system. That is going to overwhelm your system. There is a skill, there is a way to move with that. Nonetheless, so yes, there's a way to engage your inner child, your protector parts, your stuck places, all of that. Those are skills that take time, effort, support to learn, even for clinicians, okay? The fact of the matter is, one of the beautiful things about brain spotting and somatic inclined brain body-based modalities is it's slow, it's sacred, and it's real. And that's what makes brain spotting revolutionary in a world obsessed with quick fixes. Healing is not a flex, y'all. It's not a hashtag. It's not a hustle. It's a remembering, a regulation, a return. So if you've been overwhelmed by the noise, this is your gentle reminder. You don't have to perform your healing to be worthy of it. You don't have to post your process for it to be valid. You don't have to keep chasing a healing aesthetic. You don't have to keep collecting trauma vocabulary to prove you're growing. You don't have to rush your recovery to fit the rhythm of the internet. Healing doesn't live in hashtags. It lives in the body. And when you turn toward that truth without judgment, without performance, we return to what's real. If today's episode resonated with your nervous system or your spirit, share it with someone who's tired of chasing healing aesthetics. And if you're a clinician ready to move beyond the algorithm, join me for a brain spotting training. Let's return to sacred healing together. Until next time, pause, breathe, unfollow what's draining you, and remember, healing is not a trend, it's a remembering. I found this episode to be so important and expressing that healing is not a trend and what TikTok therapists get wrong, that I am including a bonus extension to this particular podcast because I definitely wanted to leave you something that was usable for you to sit with yourself. And so I have some invitational prompts and just want to invite you to reflect. Number one, what does healing mean to me when I strip away the social media version? Okay. Journal about what healing feels like in your body versus what you've been told it should look like. Notice if any of your images or expectations come from trend culture instead of your lived truth. Second invitation of reflection. Where have I felt pressured to perform my healing? Recall moments you posted or shared progress to prove worth or credibility. How did your body feel in those moments? Open, grounded, and safe, or tense, shallow breath, and alert? Third reflection invitation. When have I been harmed by quick fix advice? Write about a time a meme, soundbite, or manifestation tip minimized your lived experience. What truth did your nervous system know in that moment? Reflection invitation number 4. What practices feel sacred, even if they're not shareable or pretty? Name 3 ways you've supported your healing that no one else has seen. How do those private acts of care nourish you differently than public ones? Number 5, reflection invitation. Where am I ready to slow down? Identify one area of your healing you've been rushing because of comparison or pressure. What might happen if you gave yourself permission to linger, to feel, to be incomplete? Reflection invitation number 6. Who in my lineage practiced healing without the internet? Let me say that again. Who in my lineage practiced healing without the internet? Yeah, because people healed long before there was an internet, right? Bring to mind ancestors or elders who embodied, grounded, embodied care. What rituals or values from them can you reclaim now? And number 7, and finally, reflection invitation. How does my body signal enough when I'm consuming too much online healing content? Track physical cues: fatigue, tension, irritability, shallow breathing. Those are some cues, okay? And experiment with stopping at the first sign of overwhelm and turning toward a regulating practice. Thank you for being with me today. It is always a pleasure, and thank you for your support. I've been actually receiving feedback from every direction about this little guilty pleasure of mine of podcasting and voice acting. I just saw the leader say I have like 8 minutes left before going back in. Nonetheless, it is always my pleasure. And just know, yeah, healing is sacred and it's available to you. Thank you. If today's episode resonated with your nervous system or your spirit, share it with someone who's still unlearning and reach out to me. My website is gracecommunitycounseling.com. You can reach me on Instagram at Monroy LPC. That is MONROY LPC. Also, I have offerings from retreats to brainspotting trainings to workshops, you name it. And I am also a speaker. So if you ever need a speaker with my skill set, look me up. Give me a call. Let's see what can happen. And absolutely for you clinicians and adjacent body healers, feel free to reach out and attend a brain spotting training. We have trainings all the time. Thank you.